For thousands of years, the Sierra Miwoks practiced their vibrant culture among the beautiful black oaks in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. At one time, it is believed over 10,000 Miwok thrived in the area. The current Tuolumne Band of Miwok has approximately 400 tribal members, half of whom live on the rancheria in Tuolumne County. Many of the remaining members reside in nearby Mariposa, Amador, and Calaveras counties. The average American family in the service area is a single mother with 3 children. Many of these women have been victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse, resulting in behavioral health challenges, including feelings of shame and guilt, depression, and anxiety. As in many communities, these root issues have resulted in alcoholism, drug use, and other ways of self-destructive coping. In 2009, the Tuolumne Band of Miwok's Social Service Department received a U.S. Department of Justice discretionary grant for Indian tribal communities from the Office of Violence Against Women. The overall purpose of the grant was to set up the first victim assistance program to increase services for victims of sexual assault. In one of the culminating activities of the grant, a conference was held at the Black Oak Casino in Tuolumne County on March 25th through 27th, 2014. The objectives of the conference were 1. To raise awareness of the magnitude of domestic violence and sexual assault among American Indians living in Tuolumne and surrounding counties. 2. To raise awareness of the existing network available to address domestic violence and sexual assault in the service area. And 3. To build the capacity of this network to work together. This digital story accompanies a written report and reflects the voices of the keynote speakers and the workshop presenters.
This conference here is really important because it's for women. It's about healing all types of trauma, domestic violence. But because we haven't talked about it for years, we have a lot of wounds that haven't healed. And so it's talking about it so that we can move on and past it. And looking at it because we keep adding things to that trauma. And so it gets buried deeper and deeper.
Well, I think it's always important for our people, our Native people, to gather and to share information and to share ideas on, changes that may be necessary to improve the quality of life and look at, having, a true engagement with our tribal members and looking at, giving them the opportunity to share, what they believe and what they know are the steps to take, and I think that's the thing we want to help with, is to identify, in our tribal communities that there are people there, they are their own resources. We believe that,
I think it's really critical that we have this type of dialogue, exposure and information sharing among, in this particular case, Native women. Violence has so much become a part of our everyday life almost, and it's been an accepted violence in Indian country.
I presented on post-traumatic stress disorder, symptoms and education, as well as coping skills and tools to use in the immediate moment when folks are feeling like they're having flashbacks or any kind of episodic moments come up where they're remembering or being triggered by the trauma. So I wanted to give tools to folks so that they can immediately use that if they're in the grocery store or driving down the road and they see or are triggered by something or somebody that reminded them of the event.
This afternoon, Dean Hoagland and I will be presenting on strengthening relationships with tribal communities. And this is really taking a look at traditions, the standards and the principles that are integrated into traditional practices, traditional beliefs, and how to apply them in our contemporary lives. So we'll be looking at some of the impacts historically over generations, and what are some things that can be applied today to promote wellness, healthy lifestyles, and strengthening our relationships.
I presented a session on Pathway to Wellness for Women, focusing on the importance of balance of mind, body, and spirit, especially for survivors of domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault, incest, how difficult it is for our Native women to remember to take care of themselves, because they often end up becoming leaders in their community and for their tribe, for their people, and how we often put ourselves on the back burner, and the importance of balance for that mind, body, spirit.
I was living in San Diego with a man who liked to beat me up. And I think that this was the only thing that my mother never wanted for me. She never wanted me to be in a relationship with somebody that would hurt me, because her father had hurt her mother, and she had said that was it, that it was going to stop. And I remember learning a lot. You don't stay with a man who hurts you. But I wasn't telling anybody. I was living just with him. And one night I finally called her on the phone and I said, "Mom, I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna go. I'm packing up all of my stuff right now." And she said, "I think you're making the right decision." And I said, "No, I know he's right. I'm nothing without him. I'm worth nothing." And she paused for like a long time, and she took this deep breath and she said, "Oh, Katja, we should have danced for you." I'm here today to talk about the Hupa flower dance ceremony, which is what I do my dissertation research on. It's also a ceremony that I'm really involved with in the Hupa community where I'm from. So I'm from Hupa. I'm also Yurok and Karuk. Grew up in Northern California. In Hupa, we say that the flower dance is actually a Kahenai dance. So we have dances that the Kahenai, who are our first people, do in the sky for all time. And one of those dances is the flower dance. That means that they're doing the flower dance right now. And in order to bring the flower dance down, a girl has to call up to them with her own song, and it brings the dance down to her. And then they stop the dance during that period of time, and they point their sticks at us while we do the dance. Now, the origin story of the flower dance is about a young girl who is the daughter of one of our Kahenai, whose name is Yamantatuye, and he tricks her into giving her extra food by running his house up the hill, and then she walks up the hill and thinks that she's giving it to her uncle. But then after she delivers it, she sees him running the house back down the hill. And she says, "Dad, I just saw the house running down the hill. What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh no, you're a grown-up now. I'm gonna have to do a flower dance for you." And he does a dance for her because she figured out that he was trying to trick her, which means she's growing up. What I like to say about this is that it was very unclear to the women when they had decided that they were gonna bring this dance back, sort of where they start. And they started with this story. And what I learned from it when I really heard and listened to this story, was that people had said that the flower dance was quote unquote extinct, that it was a dance that the Hupa people lost. But I thought, it's not lost, it's just up there. It's just waiting for us. That the Hupa people are known for being a group of people who never stopped their dances. Even during periods of time in which they were passing laws saying you couldn't do it, in which they had a boarding school on the reservation that kids had to go to, in which they had shut down a number of villages, the Hupa people said, "We are always going to be doing these dances."